It's time for your daily dose of all things Chicago sports. This is the Daily Score. Now, here's your host, Mark Grote.
Hi. Hope you guys are doing great. Coming at you from our downtown Score studios for the podcast today. And I've decided that what we are going to do here, I was inspired. I just got done doing a live show on the radio on 670 The Score, where you could hear me doing lots of my reports and hosting various shows, and had a texter at the end of the show who was asking me about some of the rookies at the end of the draft class, guys like Travis Bell, the defensive tackle, and Kendall Williamson, the safety. So I thought that we would make this our draft show today. The rookie draftees that Ryan Poles select. I'm just going to go through all of them, Darnell Wright, right through Kendall Williamson, just give a little synopsis on all of these guys. Also have some tremendous audio that we're going to play for one of the draft picks, Tyler Scott, the 4th rounder out of Cincinnati, but we'll get to him in just a second. Let's start right at the top. The number 1 draft pick for the Bears, Darnell Wright, the right tackle out of Tennessee. The Bears, from the very beginning of OTAs and mini camps and rookie camp and now into training camp, have put him at right tackle, and they are throwing a lot at Darnell Wright. And as you would expect, it's been somewhat up and down for Darnell Wright. I think the biggest problem for him right now, or recently, has been some false starts, and some of that is a product of getting used to the NFL cadences. In other words, the calls that Justin Fields is making. Sometimes there's these silent cadences, and that has caused some issues for him as well. But by all accounts, I mean, he looks the part. He's a skilled offensive lineman. He is got that nasty in him that we always talk about with offensive linemen, and I think in his case, it's legit. Like him and Tevin Jenkins are just a couple of badasses in that regard. So it's all there. All the raw material is there. It's just a matter of putting it together. Like Darnell Wright is not there yet, but I believe that he's going to be fine even early on. I mean, I think that, like, give credit to this Bears offensive staff, starting with Ryan Poles. Last year, you had a 5th round pick in Braxton Jones starting every single game at left tackle while he was imperfect. And like I always say, good for a rookie, not necessarily relative to the rest of the NFL. You know, Braxton Jones did start every game, and the Bears got him ready to do that. So my belief is that they can do the same thing with Darnell Wright, and that he could be better than Braxton Jones. So that's this quick synopsis on Darnell Wright. Gervon Dexter has been pretty quiet in camp. You know, we keep talking about the learning curve and the relativity factor from what they had him do at Florida to what the Bears are having him do now. More read and react when he was at Florida. Now more breakthrough and get to the quarterback, disrupt, all that kind of stuff. And guess what? For the first time yesterday now, as you're listening to this report in the Thursday version of training camp, Gervon Dexter, guess what he did? Just as we were talking about it, and I was doing some of my hits discussing Dexter and what he needs to do to get better. He busted through that line, got right up in Justin Fields' face. Fields goes to throw the ball, and Dexter knocks it down. So, and you know, the one thing that everybody says when you first see Gervon Dexter, and players have said this, coaches have said this, he's a huge man. So I look at that guy and say, yeah, I think you can make something into him. So that's Gervon Dexter. Got a little ways to go, but I'm starting to see some promise in him. Tyrique Stevenson, the cornerback out of Miami, might be the MVP of training camp, period, not just for a rookie. Tyrique Stevenson has been good in coverage. He has had several interceptions throughout. There are the occasional rookie mistakes, but to me, I feel completely comfortable with Tyrique Stevenson being the starting cornerback on the outside opposite of Jalen Johnson. There had been a competition going on with Tyrique Stevenson and Terell Smith, but I believe that Stevenson has won that battle. We'll get to Terell Smith here in just a second. So obviously I'm giving 2 thumbs up on Tyrique Stevenson. Zacch Pickens, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina, like Gervon Dexter, asking him to do the same thing and undo some of what they had him do at South Carolina in this 4-3 defense. They want him to explode through the line, not thinking as much, get that first step down from Zacch Pickens. He's not made a huge impact as of yet, but again, got all the tools. He's a great guy to talk to and all that, but I think he's still got a ways to go before I can say that this guy's going to make a huge impact. But I think that it very well could still happen. 3rd round pick out of South Carolina, Zacch Pickens. Roschon Johnson. I know you guys love Roschon Johnson, the 4th round running back out of Texas, famously played behind Bijan Robinson, which, doesn't really leave a lot of room to run with Texas. But Roschon Johnson has been missing for a lot of training camp. He just recently, in the last few days, started to put the pads on, which he has been probably more anxious than any player I've ever seen or talked to in my 6 years of covering the Bears full time. Roschon Johnson likes to hit. He is physical, and we have started to see some of that. By all counts, this is a guy who wants to be a good blocker, and I think he could blossom into it. Right now, he's number 3 on the depth chart behind Khalil Herbert, behind Deontay Foreman, and I do believe that, Roschon Johnson, he is a work in progress, but I'm kind of like you. I'm hoping that there's great things in store for Roschon Johnson. Need to see more. Another 4th round pick, Tyler Scott, the rookie wide receiver out of Cincinnati. He's been another very active player in training camp, made several big-time plays. As you're about to hear here from Tyler Scott, he's also had some drops too. He's had a bad couple of days, and sometimes he looks like a rookie also, just like we keep saying with all these rookies. There are habits that are things that he got away with in college that he's not going to get away with at the pro level. But Tyler Scott, probably the most impressive young man when we talk about, the Q&As that we are fortunate to have with these players. Tyler Scott is impressive, but we are going to talk to him right here about what this level is like, the NFL.
Here at the NFL, it's a lot more disguises, coverages. It's a lot more different things, that you have to, look out and see. So that's also been another thing that, on top of just knowing alignments and assignments and things of that nature, once you get those things down, it's like you got to look up like, all right, now what's going on in front of me? And so those are just all the processes that, you kind of go through. And that's also been, another learning curve for me, is just kind of really being able to use my eyes and see like, okay, is it cover 2? Is it cover 1? What is the nickel doing? What's the safety doing? Those type of things.
Dependability is such a big factor for someone like you. The quarterbacks say be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and also avoiding drops. As far as being dependable in those two facets, where are you right now? How confident are you that you'll be able to be that guy? And is that part of the developmental thing as well?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely part of the developmental period of just continue to grow. You just, like I said, just knowing assignments and alignments, being where you're supposed to be. I think I had one route yesterday. I had like a corner route of some sort. They played like a zone coverage, and I came out of it. I was on the field with Justin at the time. I came out of it, and I want to say I came out kind of too high. And on one of those, he was like, hey, more so just settle down. And he was like, I understand too, like, still learning, getting that together, but, just being able to use your eyes and just kind of see what's going on in front of you, so you can find those soft windows and zones to just take your, game to the next level. So that's all just a part of just learning the different plays, learning what the landmarks are, because we have so many different routes and conversions and things that change based off of coverage. So, those things are just, again, part of the learning curve. But the biggest thing is just coming in each day and learning from the last day, and just hoping that you can continue to get better and do your assignments.
What about the drops part of it? Are you comfortable with how you've been in camp as far as?
Yeah, I mean, I had a rough patch for maybe, day or two. I think that's just part of the game. No one's perfect. It's just part of just growing. No one's ever perfect in practice, and that's where you want to make those drops, is in practice. But no, I mean, it'll come back to you. At the end of the day, you play football, I catch the ball, and it's never overthink it. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Have you gotten better at that? Just getting, you have some play that's a disappointment for you, drop whatever, and just moving on to the next. Is that something you worked on consciously? Like, I'm going to let this go quicker.
Oh, for sure. I think I hark back to my track background with that. So growing up, I used to run track. I started when I was maybe 5, 6. Ran track for a while. And one thing I learned there is, first thing is your emotions. Learning how to control your emotions. You don't want to be too antsy. You don't want to be too hyped up, because you may jump the start. You may pull a hamstring, those type of things. So I've really learned to be in tune with myself and with my body, just with my thoughts, and just really being calm. I'm not the type of person before a game that really likes to get hyped up.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you took that in the way I did. Like, oh my God, this guy, like, incredible. And it's easy. Like, I understand, man. It's easy to be seduced by a player sometimes when we're just talking about talking and you want to see it on the field. We need to see it. And, he could be that guy, though, man. 4th round pick out of Cincinnati, Tyler Scott. And, man, I want more. I want more of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got on Saturday. Matter of fact, at the very end here, just a couple minutes here, because I got a few more players I want to discuss. One more thing from Tyler Scott coming up at the end of this podcast that you guys are going to love. Like, every age Bears fan that is listening to this is going to absolutely love it, if you know what I'm saying. So just stand by for that. Noah Sewell, man, been very impressive. The linebacker, rookie linebacker, 5th rounder out of Oregon when Jack Sanborn was ramping up, coming off his injury last year. He's definitely the first linebacker off the bench, and he's good. He's physical. He's fast. I do think Jack Sanborn is at this point better. I think Jack Sanborn deserves to be the starter, but look out for Noah Sewell, the linebacker out of Oregon. Terell Smith, I referenced him earlier in that competition that he and Tyrique Stevenson were having. Terell Smith all of a sudden has missed a bunch of practice with an undisclosed injuries. We don't get injury reports during the preseason. We've been told by the head coach, Matt Eberflus, that if it's serious, he will tell us. So I can only presume that Terell Smith's injury is not serious. But Terell Smith, the cornerback, 5th rounder out of Minnesota, has had a good camp. No doubt about it. A little bit, and he's kind of the surprise guy out of camp because, we were justifiably very focused on the 2nd rounder, but Terell Smith, man, there's a reason that they picked him, and they have identified him as a contributor. It's pretty clear. 2 other guys. Travis Bell, 7th round defensive tackle out of Kennesaw State. He's a big dude. That's probably about the best analysis I can give you on him right now. He obviously coming from that school, Kennesaw State, 7th round pick. He has not differentiated himself as of yet. There's not been a big impact. They love him. So I think that they identified him as like one of their favorite dudes in terms of character. And then the other 7th rounder as well, who they love as well. And apparently I've not had a chance to talk to Kendall Williamson, the safety out of Stanford, but they love him. He's a big time, I think I remember Ryan Poles saying character guy, and they singled those 2 guys out as just dudes that they really like. But in terms of playing and where they fit in right now, honestly, I don't really know. They've just not really broken through as of yet on those 2 guys. We'll wrap up this podcast too with one more cut, and this is coming again from the rookie wide receiver Tyler Scott. And man, talk about an adult. You're gonna love some of the names that he's about to drop in terms of the style of play which he wants to emulate. And I should add to this, keep in mind that Tyler Scott was a running back in high school. Let's roll it, Ray.
One of my favorite players growing up to watch was Gale Sayers, and I just loved how elusive he was. And so I'm kind of trying to take that style of just kind of being shifty, kind of, being able to make people think one thing and move them without even touching them. I kind of take pride in and love to do.
You're young for referencing Gale Sayers. Where does that come from?
It comes from my dad, really. He started showing me video clips of just older players when I was about 8 years old. And the guy that really stood out to me was Gale Sayers. I've seen him against the 49ers, I think, when he had the 6 touchdowns. And just watching him, just the way he moved, it was just so unique. And, I just kind of fell in love with just kind of old school players, just kind of watching each player, whether it was him or like Earl Campbell, who was more downhill, or you had like Eric Dickerson, who people used to always say I kind of ran like when I was playing running back, who had the upright running style, And so I just kind of fell in love with just kind of watching each player from generations, just kind of seeing, what made them unique, because it made them great, but it looked in a lot of different ways.
I mean, is that not incredible? Like, good father. The Gale Sayers stuff, and I was just as impressed hearing like Eric Dickerson. Yeah, very specific, man. Like Eric Dickerson, upright running style, complete badass. Like almost like too tall to be a running back. You know what I mean? Like Eric Dickerson back in the day, for some of my old heads out there. I mean, that was just unbelievable stuff from the rookie Tyler Scott. Again, like I said, I hope we can keep bringing you this, because that would mean that he's good. So But that's what we need to see. I'll be out at Soldier Field on Saturday. If you're checking this podcast out this morning, I'll be on live on the Score from 5:30 until 10 a.m. on the Mully and Haw show. I will be the David Haw portion of the show, working with Mully. My challenge right now, as I get ready to walk out of the Score studios, is to not meander down into the kitchen and the hallway, just right where WBBM is, because there's like 6 boxes of pizza in there right now, and I'm on a diet, so that is a huge goal for me. And my guess is that when I come back in here in the morning, those pizzas will still be out here, but they will not look nearly as luscious as they are looking right now. For Ray Diaz, our wonderful executive producer. Ray's the guy who, by the way, Ray's rolling right now, man. He's the one putting up the graphics that you see on the podcast right now, playing the sound, putting this whole thing together. So thank you to Ray Diaz for doing a great job. He's the regular executive producer for the Bernstein and Holmes show right here on the Score. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you the next day, probably. Bye.